Imagine two men. Both lose $10 million in a single afternoon. The first man, a lottery winner, spirals into a decade of depression and ends up back in the same blue-collar job he started in. The second man is a seasoned entrepreneur. Within 3 years, he hasn't just recovered his wealth, he's doubled it. Why? Most people believe wealth is a result of external variables, luck, timing, or the system. But data from behavioral economics suggests something far more unsettling. Your bank account is rarely a reflection of your hard work. It is a reflection of your internal financial thermostat. Today, we are deconstructing the cognitive architecture of the 1%. We aren't talking about manifestation or hustle culture. We are looking at the neurobiology of risk, the mathematics of delayed gratification, and the specific psychological glitches that keep 90% of the population in a cycle of perpetual scarcity. By the end of this analysis, you will understand the wealth schema, and more importantly, why your brain is currently wired to reject it. To understand why shifting your mindset is so difficult, we must first look at our evolutionary hardware. For 99% of human history, more was a liability. If you gathered more food than you could eat, it rotted. If you accumulated more tools than you could carry, you were slowed down. Our brains evolved in an environment of immediate returns. This created what psychologists call the scarcity heuristic. In the ancestral environment, the rational move was to consume everything today, because tomorrow wasn't guaranteed. However, we now live in an enormous delayed return environment. Wealth in the 21st century is built on the ability to ignore millions of years of biological signaling telling you to consume now. This is the foundational how we got here. We are using Stone Age software to navigate a Space Age economy. The bridge. But understanding our biological limitations is only the first step. To see how this biological lag manifests in the modern market, we have to look at the specific cognitive engines that separate the accumulator from the consumer. Deep dive analysis. The wealth schema. The psychology of wealth is anchored in 3 specific neural frameworks. First, the dopamine baseline. The average consumer experiences a dopamine spike during the act of purchase. The wealthy individual, however, has recalibrated their reward system to trigger dopamine during the act of acquisition, not of goods, but of assets. One is a terminal point, the other is a growth engine. Second, asymmetric risk perception. Most people suffer from loss aversion. Studies in behavioral finance show that the pain of losing $1,000 is twice as powerful as the pleasure of gaining $1,000. The wealthy mindset consciously overrides this. They don't view a loss as a failure of self, but as a cost of data. They decouple their ego from their P&L statement. Third, the compounding identity. If you view yourself as someone who earns a salary, you are trading a finite resource, time, for a fixed reward. If you view yourself as a capital allocator, your time is irrelevant. Your judgment is the product. The mid-roll re-engagement, the reset, narrator, tone, direct, engaging. We've covered why your brain is naturally wired for scarcity and how the wealthy rewire their dopamine response. Take a breath. If this feels counterintuitive, it's because it is. You are literally fighting your own biology. But here is the surprising pivot. The biggest hurdle to wealth isn't a lack of knowledge or even a lack of capital. It is a psychological phenomenon known as the upper limit problem. Most people have a subconscious comfort zone for how much success they feel they deserve. When they exceed it, they self-sabotage. Coming up, we're going to look at how these individual mindsets actually dictate the entire global economy, and why a market crash is often just a mass psychological upper limit event. The ripple effect, micro mindsets to macro markets. How does one person's mindset affect the USD or global trade? Through the aggregation of sentiment. Economics is often taught as a series of cold, hard numbers. In reality, it is a mass psychology experiment. When the majority of a population operates from a scarcity mindset, they hoard cash, velocity slows, and the economy stagnates. Conversely, the wealth effect occurs when psychological confidence leads to increased spending and investment. But here is the elite secret. The most significant wealth transfers in history, 1929, 2008, 2020, happen when the retail mindset panics, while the architect mindset stays clinical. The market is a mechanism for transferring money from the impatient, the primitive brain, to the patient, the prefrontal cortex. When the masses see a crash, the wealthy see a clearance sale. This isn't just a strategy. It's a fundamental difference in temporal perception. The expert's perspective. Economic schools of thought. To synthesize this, we look at the clash between classical economics and behavioral finance. Classical theorists like Adam Smith assumed the rational actor, a human who always makes the most profitable choice. But giants like Daniel Kahneman and Richard Thaler proved that humans are predictably irrational. The elite architect knows that the market is not rational, but reflexive. George Soros's theory of reflexivity suggests that our beliefs about the economy actually change the economy. If you believe you are in a recession, you act like it, and thus, you create one. Applying this to the individual, your internal financial reality isn't a reaction to your bank account. Your bank account is a reaction to your internal reality. Future forecasting, the age of intellectual capital. As we move toward 2030, the mindset shift becomes even more critical. We are transitioning from an era of labor capital to an era of intellectual and digital capital. In an AI-driven world, the hard worker mindset is being commoditized. The strategic architect mindset, the ability to direct capital, leverage technology, and manage complex systems, is becoming the only remaining alpha. The wealth gap of the future won't just be about money, it will be a cognitive gap. Those who can maintain a deep work state in a world of infinite distraction will effectively own the future. We began with the question of why some people can lose everything and get it back. The answer isn't in their vaults, it's in their operating system. Wealth is not something you get. It is something you become. It is the byproduct of a mind that has successfully negotiated with its primitive urges, mastered the art of delayed gratification, and decoupled its self-worth from market volatility. The shift from a scarcity mindset to a wealth mindset doesn't happen when you get your first million. It happens when you decide that the million is already an inevitability based on the systems you have built within yourself.